Hey, how about that R5C? The R5C is unique in the sense that it's truly the best hybrid camera at this time that's excellent at both stills and video. It has an operating system just for stills and an operating system just for video. The video operating system is similar to the C70 and it has excellent video features. It overall has the best balance of features all around on both sides more than any other hybrid out there for video and stills. The R5 is excellent at stills, but it's only okay at video, especially with overheating. It's a photocentric hybrid. The A7S III is excellent at video, but 12 megapixels, come on. It's only okay at stills. The A7 IV is close, but the specs cannot compare, and it also suffers from overheating like the R5. The R5C is great at both sides. Just compare the specs. It's excellent. But does it have a major flaw? Let's look at that in today's video and go over the different scenarios and options. The R5C is a phenomenal camera. The video specs with unlimited recording and no overheating are simply amazing. 8K, 5.9K, 2.9K, 12-bit, that's RAW HQ, RAW standard, RAW light, 24p, and even 60p with external battery. That's awesome. It's 4K, it's 4K HQ oversampled from 8K, and that's 10-bit up to 120p slow-mo. You can also use the new XAFC compression, which is a lot easier to deal with. The camera for stills is 45 megapixel camera. It shoots 20 shots a second, and the autofocus is amazing. No matter how much a camera is improved on, there will always be drama and exaggeration knocking it. No IBIS. Oh no. Come on, guys. The Canon cameras until R5 and R6 never had IBIS, and they've done just fine with lens stabilization. How many cinema cameras out there have built-in image stabilization? Almost none. So is this a major flaw, the IBIS? No, not in a cinema camera. How about in the stills part of the camera? I don't think so. It's a nice to have, but not a major flaw. How about the weather sealing? Is it the weather sealing? Is that the major flaw? I don't think so. From what I've been able to understand and gather, the fan compartment is separated from the electronics. Its weather sealing is almost as good as the R5. I'll do another video on that soon. So all right, what is it? What is the major flaw? Well, how about the battery life? Well, maybe. I've done some tests. Let's go over it and we'll discuss our options.
These are the Canon LPE 6NH batteries. I started each test with a newly charged Canon branded R5RC battery. I did 4 different regular battery tests. My first test here is the R5C 8K 12-bit RAW recording at 23.98p, 24p. The camera shows around 67 minutes for the battery. It actually lasted about 69 minutes. So 1 full hour of recording on one battery. Now that's 8K RAW, 23.98p. Not too bad, not the greatest. The second test here is the R5C 4K using the XF-AVC compression 422 10-bit. The results were almost the same, just a little bit over 1 hour per battery. In this case, the camera is an 8K camera and it is downsampling to 4K. So between these two tests, we're looking at 8K RAW 12-bit are some of the best 4K 10-bit recording that you can have. The worst case recorded was my third test. This is the one that kind of hurt. I tested the R5C 4K with the XF-AVC 422 compression, 10-bit recording at 59.94p, basically 60p. So double the frame rate. The camera showed, instead of 67 minutes, it showed approximately 38 minutes of recording available. And that's pretty much how long it lasted. The camera's estimates tend to be pretty close. It lasted about 37 minutes on one battery. So there's the kicker. If you're constantly recording in 59.94 or 60p, then you are going to use some batteries. You're looking at about 37 minutes operation per battery. Now I say operation because whether the record button is pressed or not, if you're not in playback or in the menu system, then the camera is still intaking a readily 60p frames a second. It, along with most cameras, operate the autofocus and the intake of the video whether you press record or not. This is how you can actually record to the Ninja 5 or 5 Plus without pressing record on your camera. Now I did do one more test to have a comparison for you. I did some low quality 4K on the R5. This is the non-oversampled 4K on the R5, not the 4K HQ, but the 4K non-oversampled. So with one battery, I was able to get around 2 hours of recording. So pretty much more than double recording time. So in a run and gun situation where you turn the camera on and off, this might not be a big deal. That's the kind of situation I use it most of the time, except when I'm recording here in my little studio at the house. So not usually that big of a deal, especially for what you're getting. You're getting 8K 12-bit RAW if you want. Most people can't use that. They don't have enough storage or the power to process now at this point, but it's future proof. Or you're getting the 4K 10-bit high quality video oversampled from 8K. We're talking very high quality. I would even say it's better than A7S III at this point. Very good high quality 4K. You're getting excellent video. It is definitely worth it. So if I need to carry 3 or 4 batteries to make it through the day for running gun shooting off and on, 4 or 5 batteries, no big deal. But I don't need to do that because I'm not shooting 60p the whole time anyway. I'm usually shooting 23.98, and I'll put it in 60p or 120p occasionally when I need slow-mo. Now, what about those extra long recording sessions? What about like here in the studio when I'm recording this video here? What do you do? Well, there are 3 different options I'll show you in a few minutes. One of those options is basically a V-mount setup. This is what I recommend if you're professional. If you're recording hours a day, you're doing documentary work, or you're doing weddings, well, more than likely you're going to need an external monitor anyway. You're going to need external powered mics, and you're going to need an external battery to run all these things. That's what I'd recommend. Set up your camera in a cinema rig type style. Have one V-mount battery that powers your mic, powers your monitor, and powers your camera all together. I have this set up. I tested it. I'll show you how long the battery lasts. Let's go over those 3 options. I'm going to show you the battery grip. I'm going to show you the USB-C external battery pack. It works really well. I'm using it right now in studio. And let's go over the cinema rig setup I have that uses a V-mount battery. Let's see how long the battery lasts. First, let's talk about the battery grip. This is the Canon BG-R10 battery grip. It holds 2 batteries. The battery grip runs about $349. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, the battery grip does add a little bit of extra weight. Of course, you've got the 1 extra battery, but the grip itself also weighs 12.38 ounces. Now, the results you're going to get with a battery grip, of course, is double what you would get with just 1 battery. So for 8K RAW, 12-bit, 23.98p, you're going to get around 138 minutes of recording, almost a little bit more than 2 hours. Now with the 4K HQ 10-bit, you're looking at about the same, 134, 138 minutes. And the 4K HQ 10-bit, 59.98p, basically 60p slow-mo, you're looking probably at around 74 minutes with the battery grip. So a little over an hour with the battery grip doing slow-mo. That's not a bad option. All right, so here you can see I have the Anker PowerCore Plus PD 45 watt. Now it's important that you be sure to get this model. I believe it's one of the few that's been approved to work with the R5 C. That's the Anker PowerCore Plus PD 45W. Now you'll see I have it mounted here on the Small Rig Universal Power Bank Holder Clamp. It's a 2790 power bank clamp mount. I'll be sure to put a link to both items in the description below. The Anker PowerCore runs about $139.99. Not a bad deal. Now it's important to note, as you run with the power pack, you still have to have a battery in your camera. First, you put your battery in your camera, you turn the camera on, and then you plug up your power bank. As you do that, you look in the top right corner of your camera, you're going to see USB PD written at the top right corner. That's how you know it's working. So I started doing a recording test with 4K HQ at 59.94. You will see I made it a little over 3.5 hours before finally giving up on running this test. If I look at the side of the power bank here, you will see I have about 5 lights out of 10 showing. This means in that time I used up about half of the battery life. So more than likely, with $139, you'll get about 6 hours of recording at 60p. That usually equates to double that with 24p. So here you can see I've got more of a heavier rigged out solution. I've got the IndyPro Tools Ultra Mini V-mount adapter plate with a IndyPro Tools Micro Series V-mount battery, 98 WH. I also have a Indie Pro Tools D-tapped Canon LPE6 type dummy battery. So we have our V-mount plate, V-mount battery, and a dummy battery going into the camera. Now I use this setup to actually power my camera, my monitor, and my mic all at once. For this test, we're just going to power the camera. Now this solution definitely will power your system for a long time, but it is not cheap by any means, but it is well worth it for a more professional system. This particular Micro Series battery cost about $229. The D-tapped Canon LPE6 type dummy battery cost about $70, and the mini V-mount adapter plate to put on your rod system cost about $80. And this doesn't count the small rig cage and handle and the rails that go with it. I'll put links to these different items below, and in the future I'll have another video on the whole rig setup that I have going on here. Also keep in mind you can buy different V-mount size batteries. You don't have to actually go with this size. You could go with bigger or smaller. Now I'm going to try to actually push this battery to the limit. I'm going to do this test with 4K at 60p. Now you'll see here on the screen it shows 348 minutes left for this battery. You can't trust that at all. So once you start using a bigger battery like this, the reading on the screen becomes inaccurate. You can't trust it at all. So let's see how it did. Now here you can see that I've actually been running the recording for quite a while. I've only got 17 minutes left on my card. We have 348 minutes left on the battery, and of course that's not true. You can see I'm recording in 59.94p, and I recorded for 2.5 hours so far. After 2.5 hours, I decided it was time to give it a quit. This is 2.5 hours at 60p. Now on the side of this battery, you're going to see there's 5 lights, and 3 of these lights are lit up. Maybe actually a little bit of the 4th is still lit up. So I haven't even taken this battery halfway yet. So that's 2.5 hours at 60p now. We've gone 2.5 hours and I haven't even used a half a battery yet. So more than likely, you're looking at probably 8 hours on this particular V-mount battery using 60p. Now, if this is like all the other tests, the 60p gets about half battery life as the 24p. So we're probably looking at about 16 hours on this battery at 24p. Now that's a big guess, of course. Now, of course, this is a lot bulkier. It's a lot bigger setup, but keep in mind, this is a cage setup that's made to have an external monitor, have an external mic, and have everything run off of this one V-mount battery. It's a more professional setup, and it will get the job done. Now, there is one solution. Now, there is another solution here that I haven't had the pleasure to try out. This is the Anton Bauer Titan base kit for Canon LPE6 powered cameras. Now, this battery pack actually screws into the bottom of your camera, so that makes it a lot easier to carry around. That's quite neat. Now this uses the D-tap into the battery, and I believe it has a regulated LPE6 dummy battery that comes with it. You plug into the battery slot of your camera. So this solution runs for $294.50, and I believe you're looking at quite a bit of power.
So what do you think? What are your thoughts? The R5C has amazing features, both stills and video. It does have limitations on the battery life. Is that a big showstopper? If I'm using run and gun, and I'm shooting 5-minute videos here and there, a battery tube, well, on 24p, it's going to last me all day. On 60p, well, I'm going to have to carry 4 or 5 batteries, but I'm stopping recording and starting recording all day long anyway. That's probably not a big issue. Now, what about if you don't have the ability to constantly change the batteries? Well, there are options. You do have that base plate battery. That's a good solution. Doesn't add a lot of weight to the camera. You also have the battery grip. You can have 2 batteries at once. 24p, you're getting at least a couple of hours of recording. 60p, you're getting at least an hour of recording. It's not bad. So what do you think? Well, you might say, how about the long recording? Well, if I'm doing long recording, I'm doing documentary type of work, I'm doing professional work, I'm more than likely going to have a bigger setup anyway. I'm going to have a cage on it. I'm going to have a monitor on it. I'm going to have better mics on it. And those things require battery sources too. They require energy too, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to have a cage on it, and I'm probably going to use a V-mount battery. So as you can see, it works great with a V-mount battery. I can have an external monitor, I can have an external mic, and I can have the camera running off a single V-mount battery, and I can get up to 6 hours of recording, if not more, off of one V-mount battery. That's pretty amazing. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think the limitations are not that big of a deal. It's definitely not a showstopper. For these features in this camera, for this price, the video and the photo features, it's simply amazing. No other camera matches all the features all around. It's very well balanced on both sides. It's both video and photo. It's not leaning towards video-centric or leaning towards photo-centric like our other hybrids. It's both. That, to me, is amazing. So that's my opinion. Of course, I might be wrong. I may use it more and more and realize, hey, maybe I messed up. My opinion's wrong in some areas. That's just my opinion for what it's worth. I'd love to hear your opinion. What are your thoughts? Leave me some feedback below. Let me know what you think. So thanks for watching today. That's all I have for you. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next time.